Now, your electrifying hosts of Exploring the Bizarre, Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz.
There must be some kind of way out of here, said the Joker to the thief. There's too much confusion. I can't get no relief.
Wow, you sound just like Bob Dylan, Tim. But why the protest song? The Vietnam War has been over a long time ago.
Not singing about Vietnam. This has to do with the Watchtower in the San Luis Valley, where UFOs fly nearby, and our guests tonight keep track of the hundreds of animal mutilations that take place there.
Okay, that's really scary. Now, I've heard that aliens send down claw-like devices and snatch up cattle all times of day and night.
Now, I would have to see it to believe it. Here, take one of these hamburgers so we can get our strength up to do the show.
No. I don't think I want one. You never know when one of those bad boys will come down out of the sky and grab you and the burger. So let's get out of here and get back to the KCOR studios where it's safe and warm.
Nothing to be afraid of, I tell you. Must be some way out of here, said the Joker to the thief. There you go. There you go. I guess they got you, those pesky animal rustlers there from the sky. Tim, are you there? Are you back in the studio?
Oh, sure. Yes, I made it back safe and sound.
Did you bring the burgers? Did you bring the burgers
no, they
back
kept,
at least?
They kept those.
Well, we got to do something about that. Our guests tonight are going to tell us what to do about that, I'm sure. So how you doing out there in how you doing out there in Jasper, Indiana? Hey, we got to send a shout out at the beginning of our show to our associate Sean Castile, who's got problem there. He's in the hospital. I did talk to him this afternoon, and he seemed in high spirits, but that might have been from the morphine. I'm not sure. But hopefully he'll be home in a short while. He's anxious to get back to editing our forthcoming titles. And boy, do I have a whole list. I just can't keep up with all the discoveries we're making.
Okay. Are you sure that he's in the hospital, Tim, for medical reasons, or he just needed a break from all the books that we keep putting out?
Well, I don't know. Well, I think he's in there legitimately, but hopefully he'll be back back home in a little while and fully recovered and strong. But hey, we got a show and a half tonight from the beginning, our little introduction. I guess you could tell we're going to be talking about animal mutilations and some very strange things along the Colorado UFO Watchtower.
Yeah, Tim, we've got two fantastic guests tonight. We have, first of all, JUDY MESSOLINE and Chris O'Brien. Now, let's start out with JUDY. Now, have you ever wondered, Tim, what a real UFO looks like? Have you ever wondered if there's life on other planets? I guess.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like something that I've thought about once or twice over the last 50 years, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, now JUDY of Hooper, Colorado, has wondered the same thing, and her favorite TV shows were Sightings. We remember Sightings. I like that one, and the X-Files, of course. Now, after watching show after show, she realized that she was hearing things like Great Sand Dunes and San Luis Valley on many of these episodes. So with this in mind, JUDY had an idea. Formerly, she was a cattle rancher, but Hooper, Colorado wasn't the best location to raise cattle. So considering her interest in UFOs and the high number of UFO activity in the area, she created the UFO Watchtower, a viewing platform dedicated to the observation of UFOs and all things unexplained from the stars above. Now, Judy is also author of the book, That Crazy Lady Down the Street. I love that title. Now, also with us tonight is Chris O'Brien. Chris is making a return visit to Exploring Bizarre. Always happy to have him with us. Now, since 1992, Christopher has investigated over 1,000 paranormal events reported in the San Luis Valley, located, as you well know, in the south central Colorado, north central New Mexico, working with law enforcement officials, ex-military ranchers, and an extensive network of skywatchers. From 1992 to 2002, he documented one of the most intense waves of unexplained activity ever reported from a single geographic region of North America. Now, Chris is currently working with a team of specialists on the UFO data acquisition project, which involves installing a high-tech video surveillance and hard data monitoring system in and around the valley. Now, Chris is also the author of the groundbreaking book, Stalking the Herd. It's the first book on the subject that objectively examines the unexplained livestock death phenomena, one of the most perplexing mysteries of our time. So, Tim, let's welcome our guest tonight to Exploring the Bizarre.
Yes, indeed, indeed. Did I hear something about Judy, where you are? It's the coldest spot in the States currently?
That's what they've been saying. We got down to about 30 below here last month. So it could
you know, I often wonder, why is it where some of these UFO hotspots are, that it's so cold? We just had a fellow on from Norway who's describing to us the visits by the MESSOLINE lights in this small little valley that has a population of about 200, and they have these objects passing over the sky and over the little mountain peaks and all there, and I suppose the snow drifts. In fact, when Dr. Hynek was out there waiting for the lights to appear, this was shortly before his passing, it was something like 36 degrees below zero. So, I remember when I visited Brown Mountain in North Carolina back in the late 1960s. Of course, we were there on Christmas Eve with Jim Moseley and Alan Greenfield, and it was I don't know, darn cold. That's that's what I certainly remember. But where did you move from before you moved to this rather isolated spot, Judy?
Golden, Colorado.
Golden. And how far?
Suburb of Denver.
Okay, now, why had you heard about the sightings and the mutilations there? Is that kind of what provoked you to move?
No.
No.
I moved here initially to raise cattle, and I could afford the land in the valley. So thought this would be a good spot. But after moving here, then I started talking to the locals, and they're the ones that started talking about the UFOs.
And what year would that have been?
95.
Uh-huh.
I had a friend in Golden who called me shortly after I'd moved here, and she said, "Well, have you seen any?" And I said, "Any what?" And she said, "Well, UFOs." I said, "Oh, yeah, right. I came down here to raise cattle, not to look for dots in the sky." So,
well, when
anyway,
did you realize that? When did you realize something weird was going on there?
it was a couple of years after moving here. And my friend said to me, she said, "You need to read some books by Christopher O'Brien." She said, "This will be an eye-opener." And they really were. So I read The Mysterious Valley and Enter the Valley. But then I thought, you didn't come down here to do this. You came down here to raise cattle. So we struggled with cows for 4.5 years and finally had to sell the herd because they don't eat sand real well. And one of the farmers is who pushed me into doing the tower. And he said, "You need to put that up. You'd have a lot of fun." Well, I've had a lot of fun, but then we've gotten to have the experiences as well. So
Uh-huh. Now, in our book that just came out, the UFOs DeJa Vu, we have a photo of the tower, and across quite a selection of material on the sightings in the valley, the UFO sightings, and the mysterious morphing objects, and of course the animal mutilations. When was the first sighting actually reported to you? Was it something that you saw yourself?
yeah, it was after opening, and that was in 2000. And from that point on, I mean, I'm going to tell you something. If you're out 24 hours a day, 7 days
Yes.
a week, and there's something up there, you're going to see it,
Well, not where I am, because I'm off of Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. You can't see
Oh,
anything except tall buildings. I'll swap you places for a week. Well, no, I wouldn't. Only in the spring or summer, I might say. But okay, well, what exactly did you see?
The first one that I saw was cigar-shaped, and it was narrow and really long between the tower and the mountains, and part way down the mountain. It was 11 o'clock at night. We had over a dozen people here. Everybody saw it. So then you start saying, what the heck was it, So then we've seen, recently, it's been these blue orbs. And everybody is seeing them. They're seeing them with the naked eye. They're showing up in pictures. And we have no clue what those are about.
Now, why don't you give us a little bit of an idea exactly where you are? I mean, you're in a location that's very isolated, or pretty isolated. I mean, I can tell from the photograph of the tower. What do you look out over exactly?
Well, from the tower, you've got a 360-degree view. So mainly people are looking towards the Great Sand Dunes. And
what is the Great Sand Dune? Because I had not heard of that until I started to do some research on the valley.
Yeah, it's a national park. And we've had all kinds of reports of people seeing things over there.
Now, is this? Yeah, no, I was just going to say, is this the largest sand dune in the United States?
Yeah, I think it's
not the largest sand dune. Hi Tim. Hi Judy.
Yeah.
It's the highest sand dune desert in the world.
Okay, high and how
or in
high
North America,
exactly?
I should say.
Yeah, how high is it exactly?
Oh, it's the average at the base. It's about 7,700 feet, and it goes up above 9,000.
And can you climb it? I mean, or yeah,
but
yeah. You're going to
it's not
sink into
something
it. Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it unless you're pretty fit. And the sand in the summer gets 150 degrees.
Whoa!
Yeah,
and in the winter, so you got like a window of maybe 2 months where you're going to do any real exploring there.
Yeah.
It would seem, yeah.
Well, the kids, they surf down it. They have these specially designed surfboards that they use, kind of like I guess almost like a like skiing. They actually ski down, but then it takes a heck of a long time to hike up.
Well, Tim and I are going to book a plane because we've been wanting to do this for a long time. Right, Tim?
Oh yeah, I don't have any a sandboard. I have a snowboard. I don't know if that would work the same.
Well, I think that would say
it's similar.
Yeah, be zipping down there in no time at all. Now, so do the UFOs come down over this sand dune, or is it in close proximity? Give us a little idea about how, Chris, how far this actually encompasses this UFO and mutilation activity.
Well, the actual dune field is about 50 square miles. It's about 7 by 7, I think, miles. And like I said, it goes up kind of up the side of the mountains, about 2,000 feet. The actual highest dunes are about 700 feet. And it's one of the largest piles of pure glass, or 98% glass on the planet. And it's pretty interesting. It's only been there for about 11,000 years. And they really don't know how it got there. There's several theories that have been proposed, but none of them really work too well. It's hard to imagine piling up billions of tons of sand in only 11,000 years. They did an actual survey. They went down with a drill at the highest point of the dune field all the way down to the bottom, and they ran into an ancient forest that had been covered up. So because it was organic material, they were able to do the carbon-14 dating, and they were amazed when they found out that the trees are from 11,000 years ago. There's remains of humans that go back 13,000 years. So it's like humans have been coming to the valley there before the dunes were even there.
Now, the UFO sightings and the mutilations in the valley, how big of an area are we talking about that this activity covers?
All over the state.
All over the state. Well, we've had recent sightings. I know it's been on CNN and all, and it's not fake news, about these mysterious drones. Now, didn't you tell me in a recent conversation that there had been sightings of drones before? I mean, we know that there have been sightings of black helicopters in association with some of these mutilations and the UFO sightings. But is this the first flap of drones?
Yeah, to my knowledge. And that, again, is way up at the northeast corner of the state over the border into Nebraska and around Fort Warren. This is very interesting. Norio Hayakawa has done a lot of digging on this and has come up with a theory that we're dealing with some sort of espionage, that they were, some bad actor was flying drones into the missile fields up there, and we put our drones after their drones, and there was kind of a drone war, the potential of some sort of skirmish with drone battles. So, it's the jury's out on that. I'm not really sure what to make of it, but I find it interesting that the area where all these drones are is probably the epicenter of the cattle mutilation waves in the 70s. There were more mutilations up there in Weld County than probably any other spot in the country.
Well, I understand that some of these drones are as big as automobiles. Now that's a pretty darn big drone.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I don't think you could buy that on Amazon. I mean, I don't
you'd
know
be
for
surprised.
sure, but yeah, maybe. So. I've even seen them flying drones, like 2 blocks from here on Fifth Avenue. I mean, but they weren't anything particularly spectacular. But now, Chris, you were a native New Yorker until you moved out to Colorado, and you were involved in the music business, and I guess you certainly still are. In fact, I met you at the record plant or some studio here in Manhattan before we knew each other as being involved in UFOs, I think.
Oh,
but,
yeah, it was almost 40 years ago.
Yeah, let's not push that. But, okay, why in God's name did you move from, well, I don't want to say, I'm not exactly in love with Manhattan anymore either, because I got pounding and drilling outside my window. There's 4 skyscrapers going up on the block,
Okay.
and if you want to buy a condominium on the in the skyscraper on the corner, a 1-bedroom starts at $2.2 million.
Yeah.
So I know if we combine the royalty from all our books, maybe we can get a 2-bedroom place there. I think I'm sure. But what made you? I mean, it wasn't for your. It wasn't a career move, was it? That you moved from New York to Colorado?
Well, I actually moved to Boston for a couple years. I was with a real popular band up there, and that kind of fell apart after a couple years, and I decided to get back out west. I'm actually a 5th-generation Californian, and my girlfriend and I we checked out Santa Fe, and we could only stand it for about a week. And I had friends that lived up in the valley in Crestone, and they invited us to come check it out. And I was there for 13 years.
Yeah, you were, and you just recently moved back to upstate.
Yeah, I'm in upstate New York right now.
Yeah, but you still you have your cameras mounted in the valley, so that if a morphing UFO
one of them's right there at
over,
Judy's.
There you go. It's is that the best observation spot around?
You bet. If I was going to have a UFO Watchtower, I'd put it right there.
Well, there you go.
It's got a front row seat.
But okay, so you moved out there, and it wasn't it on like New Year's Eve that you were at a party and you heard people talking or chatting about this? That's a wonderful story. Yeah.
Yeah, I became an investigator that night. I found out that there was on December 9th, 92, there was an amazing sighting of 200-foot ovals that came down out of the Sangres, went out over one of the creeks and hovered there for a few seconds and then took off. And a sizable percentage of the little town saw these things. Wow. And I didn't. I was gigging somewhere else. I think I was across on the other side of the valley playing, and I missed out. But then, later on, just about 2 or 3 weeks later, I had the party, and everywhere I went in the party, everybody was talking about these ovals. So I contacted the local paper, the Crestone Eagle, and said, "Hey, I think I have a good story idea." And I started doing some research because I had a couple of weeks to get the article together, and within a week, I had uncovered enough material to write a book. It was like amazing.
How many books you've written now? 5?
No, 6.
6? Oh, hey, what the heck? I'm missing one in my collection. You'll have to send it to me.
It's not published yet.
I called it. That explains it.
It's been done for 7 years.
I call these the Mysterious Valley series, but run off a few of the titles.
Well, Judy rattled them off. Mysterious Valley is the first one. Enter the Valley is the second. And then Secrets of the Mysterious Valley picks up with those 2 leave off. And then I also include my best cases from the first 2 books in there. And then I'm, the Stalking the Herd book, of course, has a bit of information about all the cattle cases.
Oh, shoot. Here, that comes that.
Time to go to our break, Tim. Yep.
Yeah.
Be right back.
Now back to exploring the bizarre with 2 of the most electrifying researchers in the paranormal. Your hosts, Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz.
All right, welcome back to Exploring the Bizarre. I'm Tim Swartz. Tonight, our guests are Christopher O'Brien and Judy MESSOLINE. Now, Judy, when you first started up the UFO Watchtower, now was it an instant success? Did you have people beating down your gate to get in there, or was it a little bit slow to start till word of mouth got out?
Well, I did over 250 radio interviews before even opening. So I was assuming they were going to be lined up to come in. Well, hardly anybody came in.
Well, you were even in the New York Times. You were in the New York Times as well, I think.
Right. And the LA Times. Gosh, this has gone all over the world with interviews, et cetera, but it's been the last few years where it has really come into its own. And in the summer, we are so busy, it takes 2 or 3 of us to keep up over there. But anyway, I'm not the least bit unhappy that I started it.
Well, what was the reaction with your friends and other people around there when you said, "Hey, I'm going to build this UFO watchtower," and and it looks like that you've got a building attached with it that you have maybe souvenirs and other items of interest. I mean, did your friends say, "Oh yeah, that's really great, Judy," and then get on the phone to call the doctors?
Yeah, really. Well, the name of my book is That Crazy Lady Down the Road, and how I got the title was from the locals around here, and that's what they would call me, is That Crazy Lady Down the Road. So, but they don't anymore. So many of them down here have seen something, I get calls all the time from folks saying that they saw something in the sky, or I had a couple who came in and there was one that landed on their property.
Oh, wow.
Over by Fort Garland. And they said they didn't even go outside. They watched it from the windows inside, but it kind of spooked them. So most
I really think
have seen something.
I would say, Judy, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's so many different types of things that are unusual that you can spot there, because you do have such a panorama of 360-degree unobstructed view. You can literally see, if you're up off the valley floor in the foothills, you can see almost 300 miles. And invariably people see stuff down there, and after you've seen a few things, it almost starts to become sort of normal. I have people mention this to me all the time, that, oh yeah, I see those all the time, no big deal. And, when you hear about places that are supposedly the biggest sighting area in the country, but only 1 in 10, which is the common number that's thrown out, 1 in 10 events are actually reported. I would say in the San Luis Valley that it's upwards of 1 in 50 are reported. Yeah. And it may even be higher than that.
People don't want to be made fun of, Yeah. And that's what's so great about the UFO Watchtower, is they come in, they tell us their stories. We don't ask them what they were smoking or what they were drinking, because that's what they get from their friends. They need a place to vent and talk about it and not be made fun of. And we offer that.
What would you say? What would you say is the most spectacular sighting, Judy, that's been made from the Watchtower or from the nearby?
I think the most amazing one was, we had a fella who parked his camper over by the tower, and he stayed there for a few days. While he was on the phone talking to a friend of his, a ship came over and hovered over the top of his camper. And he went berserk. He said he didn't think he'd ever see anything, especially that. Mm-hmm. So that one was a pretty good story.
I would say so. Now, how about as far as the animals disappearing and mutilations and all? Do you still have cattle? Are you grazing cattle there at all?
We have 4 now. We got rid of the entire herd. But and we had rented some property to the west of us from one of the farmers, and he told us to move the animals. It was time for him to put his animals on it, and our animals hadn't been off of that for a month, and he had a mutilation at his place. So I'm glad my cows weren't there.
Hey, Chris, why don't you take us back to the beginning of the mutilations? Because, this goes back so many years now that people may not know about our favorite, very famous horse that started this all.
Yeah, the first real publicized case that we know of, or at least the case that became international news, was in the first September 8th, 1967, and south of the Great Sand Dunes, on some of those meadows I talked about where the early traces of man are. There's the King Ranch there, and uh, the herd of horses came in for water and feed, and one of them was missing, and the horses seemed pretty spooked, and so the rancher went out, who was the brother of the owner of the horse. He went out looking for her, and he found her in a meadow, and she was about 100 feet from her tracks, and her entire skull and neck down to the shoulders was totally hoovered. All the flesh and tendons and hide and muscles and everything were gone, and the bones were this, ghostly white color, like they'd been bleached in the sun for years, and she'd been alive the night before. The brain was gone, but no break into the cranium. There was no break into the rib cage, or there was no way they could see the actual heart and lungs had been taken out, and they couldn't really determine how that was done. A necropsy was done on the animal by John Altschuler, who was a resident, was just getting his medical degree. He later on, because of the incident, became fascinated with the fact that the horse had no blood, and he became a very well-known hematologist, or he studied blood. And that, like I said, that became an international news story. Reporters came from all over the world. There were people lining the roads, dozens of cars. At some points, even up to 100 cars would park and wait for the UFO waves that would come. That 66, the fall of 66, the spring of 67, all through the summer into the fall, all the way till the fall of 69, there was about a 3-4 year period where there was just hundreds and hundreds of sightings, including little objects in broad daylight that would dive bomb cars on their way out to the dunes, and then disappear directly into the foothills, right there by Blanca Peak and all the mountains there in the Blanca Massif there. And it was really a big deal back in the day, and there were tons of newspaper stories and articles in the Valley Courier and the Pueblo Chieftain, and the Kansas City Star had a big article, all of which, of course, I was lucky enough to know one of the researchers that had been interested in the Valley, Tom Adams, and he sent me hard copies of all these wonderful, documentation of people citing claims. And I thought when I moved there in '89, I thought it was all ancient history. I didn't think there was still stuff going on. And then, slowly over the next couple of years, I started seeing stuff, and I started talking to people that saw stuff. And, I would ask around some of the old timers, and they'd look at me like I had two heads. And so I kind of figured pretty quickly that, I should just kind of just keep my ears open and not really do too much digging. It's when we really had the big wave of activity all through 93, 4, and 5. Those 3 years then it kind of went down a little bit. 96, 7, 8 was really, really heavy, and by that time, I mean, it was a big time news around the world. I had to get a bigger mailbox because of all the correspondence that was coming in. This is all pretty much pre-internet, so this is all doing it the old-fashioned way. As opposed to today, where you can get a lot done just sitting in your house. Back then, I put 10,000, or 10,000. I wish I put 100,000 miles on my truck in less than 6 years. So
now there's a photo we published in UFO DeJa Vu of you bending over and I think taking a picture of one of these mutilated.
That was pretty near Judy's place. That was there. Right there on the edge of Hooper, between Hooper and Center, right off Road 112, Judy. It was a really rare winter case. There'd been a real thick fog that night, and the rancher heard his dogs barking about 6:30 in the morning, and he saw this weird, powerful blue light through the fog, and he was so scared he didn't go out there, and he went out, as soon as the sun came up. And about 8 o'clock, and found the animal there, mutilated, lying, melting the snow because it was still warm, and immediately called me, and I was there while it was still warm. And that's one of the photographs that were taken. I also took a lot of video.
Now, tell us about some of the photographs. I know we published this, and you've got some on your amazing website. Uh, these things, the UFOs, have actually been seen to change shape. I know you've had one picture there where this thing, it looks like a drone or a probe or something or other, and we've gotten many reports recently. In fact, we put out a new edition of the book just to add 30 pages to it because we got all this information coming in about morphing UFOs. We got one case from Argentina where the object itself turned into the alien.
Wow.
How's about that? How's about that one?
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Tell us something about the objects themselves. Now, you don't necessarily think that they're extraterrestrial. They could be any number of things. But you're on the fence.
I'm not a big believer that aliens are behind the technology that we're seeing flying around. I think it's not by accident that they showed up really en masse. Large flotillas and large groups of them showed up right after we started blowing up atomic bombs. I think that 47, those early waves in the summer were a show of force because we were putting those pilots of those ships in danger by blowing off nuclear weapons, which would suggest that there is terrestrial, possibly even more terrestrial than we are. I think it's a kind of a homespun closed system phenomenon. Other tenants in the building, let's say, whether that's dimensional, time-based, or suboceanic, subterranean. I think they've been here longer than we have.
We like the Nazi German theory ourselves. We're proponents of that.
I mean, there's some of that technology, but it doesn't conform to it only conforms to a small percentage of the sighting events. In the valley, I one thing, and I think Judy will kind of echo this sentiment about any type of craft that's ever been reported. You can see in the valley. I've seen all the different sizes and colors of orbs. The most common being the silver orbs, which you see almost daily there, and large rectangular craft, large dozen triangle craft sightings, including 2 seen by law enforcement, being accompanied by, in one case, F-16s, in another case, accompanied by helicopters. In a third case, 2 smaller triangles went right in front of a car. She was headed down the road to the sand dunes, and these things went shooting past her right in front of her car, and then 2 F-16s were following right behind in full combat power. So pretty much any type of craft that's been described at some point has been witnessed and reported in the valley. I myself have seen pretty much every type of craft imaginable. Daylight sightings of small scout ships going right across the road 150 feet away from me. It's amazing when there's activity going on. It's really something to behold.
Well, Judy, what about you? I mean, what kind of objects have you seen?
Have you seen the picture of Kenneth Arnold with the ships that he saw?
Yeah, the crescent-shaped,
right? Yeah,
like a shoe heel.
Yeah, we saw that one from the tower. It was over by Mount Blanca, and at first thought it was a bird, and then it dawns on us it's 40 miles away. It couldn't be a bird.
Very big bird.
Yeah. So it was reported again the following week. Some folks down by Fort Garland saw it, and he said he was really upset because he didn't have a camera because it was only like 150 yards from him.
Wow.
And then there was another family in, and they had seen 4 of them on their property down in the same area. So that one was pretty amazing. Of course, the cigar-shaped one, and then the orbs that just do bizarre things. And then the actual saucers. And I had a guy call me one night, and he said, "Are you watching the triangular one up by the moon. And I said, what triangular one? And he says, you go out tonight with binoculars and look. You didn't need binoculars. I went out and looked, and there was a triangular-shaped object up by the moon, and it had to have been huge in order to see it with your naked eye. And it was there another couple of nights, and then it was just gone. So, yeah, Chris is right.
Oh, it's just amazing. I mean, I've seen the silver, those real silvery kind of white silver colored ones. I don't know how many times. We were seeing them daily at one point. And those are the ones that are most commonly reported. You also have the small, real small ruby red orbs that are that zip around pretty close to the ground. You have they're about baseball sized, and you have basketball sized orange lights that are fairly a fair number of them have been reported in and around mutilation sites. Then you have the blue softball sized ones, and then the large blue ones. Some of the real reddish orange ones can get as big as a small house. I've seen a couple of those go one right after the other all the way down the valley. We had treetop level, and then one split and went to the west, one split and went to the south, and they were about 500 feet below us in altitude. And about 8 minutes after we saw them, boom, here come the fighter jets on full power chasing after them. So you could almost set your watch by the.
What's that all about? Have you figured it out?
Well, yeah, they have some sort of way of knowing that they're around, because it was quite a number of times that the conventional Air Force jets would show up, Air National Guard or whomever, and chase in the direction that these things seem to disappear in, usually to the southwest or to the west or directly south. That's almost all the time. That's where they go. They head down towards New Mexico. Of course, the border with New Mexico is about 80 miles south of JUDY. And then the valley actually goes about another, it's about 140 miles long. And the southern part of it's not called the San Luis Valley, but it's all part of the same geology. And at the very bottom of the valley is Taos, New Mexico.
How about any reports of abductions or contacts?
Oh yeah. Again, a ranching lady, kind of near. If you go on a straight line from JUDY's to Highway 285, she lives. Her ranch is right off of there, and the sheriff's office called me and told me about her and said, we really think that this woman could use some help. She doesn't want anybody to know, so I don't know how to, how you're going to do it, but please try to get in touch with her and talk to her. And she had the most amazing story, which I put in Secrets of the Mysterious Valley. I mean, just amazing. And she had kept a journal and had written down nights when she was having these visitations, and her daughter, and other nights when things were happening. And I would look in my my database, my event log, and sure enough, I would be getting reports, from that part of the valley. So there was a lot of interesting correlations there. She claimed she lost a baby as she was entering her third trimester of pregnancy. And when she went to the OBG, her gynecologist, her doctor, they couldn't believe it. They said, it's like you were never pregnant. And I guess there was there was no indication physically and hormonally that she had been pregnant. And but she was obviously had been pregnant, because they had ultrasounds and everything else of the baby. So it's a pretty interesting case. I would have thought that I would have had more, but there's been some contact type cases. My neighbor actually in Crestone had a group of creatures that came through the wall and were really interested in their little boy who was gifted, and other people have witnessed similar things. Groups of these little gray types coming through their wall and checking them out. But very few stories of people being taken.
But you do have Bigfoot sightings galore, right? Or creature sightings.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's a bunch, and there's some around the Crestone area now. There's I've been told that the last 3 or 4 years there's been a family that goes through, that heads south in the fall and then heads north in the spring, and they've left some sign behind, some what appear to be signs in the forest where they stack wood together and stuff.
Are they associated with the objects?
No, not to my knowledge. I mean, we did have a wave of sightings. There was 7 sightings in 10 days, and then we had UFO activity occurring in the valley, but not near where the sightings or the Bigfoot reports are from.
Did you hear about the little boys that were lost in the mountains?
No, when was this?
Like 3 months ago.
Oh no, I haven't heard about that.
There were 2 different instances, and the kids were only like 4 or 5 years old, and they were lost in the mountains for a couple of days. And when they found them, they each had the same story. They said that this big bear took care of them.
Mm-hmm.
I did hear about that. Yeah, last summer.
Yeah, and I don't think it was a bear. I think it was Bigfoot.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead, and we need to take our top of the hour break. So when we come back, we will continue our conversation about the San Luis Valley and Bigfoot, kidnapped children, and more interesting stuff on Exploring the Bizarre.
Now, your electrifying hosts of Exploring the Bizarre, Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz.
Welcome back to Exploring the Bizarre. Our guests tonight are Christopher O'Brien and Judy MESSOLINE. So, Judy, you were saying that this year's Memorial Day weekend, you've got something special coming up.
Yeah, we're having a birthday party for the UFO Watchtower. We're going to be serving food, have entertainment, bouncy houses. We're just going to go all out to make this a fun time. And everybody is welcome to come.
So now what age is the UFO Watchtower for our listeners who don't know?
20 years.
20 years.
20th anniversary, yeah.
Well, I hear Chris is going to be bringing down. Chris is going to be bringing down his whole band.
Yeah, I hope.
No, but I might be in the valley right during that time period, Judy.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah, I'm going to come down and pay my internet bill and and my the static IP bill, which we haven't forgotten about that. We're going to be taking care of that, and then we're putting in a camera right down by the high school, about 6 miles south of Judy, which will be up about 60 feet on a cell tower, and so we'll finally get our triangulated system up and running, and I think they're going to have some sort of festival too. The SOV Voices folks, Adam Locke and his group, are going to have a festival, and they want me to kind of be the MC and give a presentation. So it's going to be right around that time, the beginning part of June, end of May.
Well, we'd love to have you.
Sure, yeah. Well, let's see if we can make everything dovetail together.
Okay. Sounds
all right.
good.
All right, Chris. Well, since you brought it up, why don't you tell our listeners? I mean, the current state of affairs with your whole the camera and data processing system. You said that you're going to be putting up another one to complete the triangulation. So, right. What do you have so far?
Well, we have 2 cameras up, but only one is running. Unfortunately, we had a camera up, and the ISP guy that owns part of the tower, he got cold feet. He he found out that the Chinese are really trying to get into our systems, and he said, no, I'm too nervous about opening up my trunk lines to my servers to hackers, and we haven't had any problems. But the camera's just hanging there on the cell tower. So we're going to go with another location for the second camera, and we're also going to put in our multi sensor data acquisition unit, which is a fancy way of saying that we have a box that has a Raspberry Pi based and Python open source computer language. And what we've done is we put in a magnetometer, a gravimeter, and a complete ISS space station sort of atmospheric monitoring system with humidity, temperature, and barometric pressure. And we're also going to be plugging in a couple of extra scientific monitoring instruments. We can have as many as 6. So one of these MSDAU units is going to be going in as well, so that if we have a UFO event, automatically the software in the camera will say whether it's a plane, what type of plane, whether it's an unknown object. If it is, we'll go ahead and record the event with 2 cameras. The closest camera will be zooming in on it. We have motion tracking, so no matter where the object goes, the cameras will be tracking it, keeping it in the center of the frame. And then, of course, we're going to go into record mode with the sensing equipment. So at the end of the event, it shoots off an email to the admin guys, me and Ron Olsch, our engineer, and we're going to probably have, by that point, we're going to have some more help, and then we're going to be able to then crunch the numbers and see what we have, and everything's all based off GPS. There'll be a map that'll show the actual track of the object. We'll be able to determine size, speed, altitude, luminance, whether it's making some sort of impression into the Earth's magnetic field, and whether there's some sort of gravity waves associated with the event. We've already sold a number of systems. We have one in Italy. We have a system going in next door to the Skinwalker Ranch in Utah. We have a system that's down in southern LA, right on the beach looking out towards Catalina Island in San Pedro. We have a system going in up in near that tower you were talking about, Tim, below Walla Walla, down towards the Yakima Indian Reservation. And then we have another system that's up in north.
Still activity going on around there, do you know?
Yeah. Yeah, there's all the Uinta Basin's like the valley. There's always stuff burbling. There's always something going on, and then when it gets hot and heavy, then it's really apparent. But there's a hotspot area will always have a small amount of activity going at all times, and then waves of activity that come in, and it can be daily or nightly.
All right. Okay. First of all, the Chinese. Why would the Chinese be interested in having
I don't know.
System? That's bizarre.
Yeah, we had hundreds of what do you call it when they phishing attacks or whatever,
Right,
where they're trying to find a doorway in. And it's not only the Chinese. They seem to be the most of the hackers are coming from China, but then we have some from Europe and some from Russia.
Ukraine? How about from the Ukraine?
Yeah. What's his name? Zaranovsky? No, Zelensky? No.
I can't.
Well, whatever.
I could never pronounce it.
Igor. Whatever.
No, it's Vladimir Zarosky, I think, or something. We have a little note in there. Go bother Donald Trump.
There you go.
So anyway, it's really exciting. The UFO DAP project is the first of its kind. where you have triangulated cameras working in conjunction once we get up and rolling. And, Hasdelin was in Norway, you mentioned earlier. They've had a camera and some scientific gear there, but they haven't been triangulating. We're going to be the first system that has actual motion tracking and triangulation, as well as the sensing equipment. So it's really exciting, and we might be making an announcement. We're going to be working in conjunction with a pretty well-known, long-established UFO study group and scientific group. We beat them to the punch, so they said, "Well, since you're the first ones there, we're not gonna reinvent the wheel. So how about if we give you some money and help you guys out?" So. That's how I'm going to be paying for the trip going down to the valley again here this spring. And I'm also putting a camera up on the other side of the Sangre de Cristos over in the Huérfano Valley, which is right in the Levita military operations area. Like to kind of get some footage of some of our, some of our technology flying around. Let's put it that way.
Now we published a couple of photographs, and they're on your website, which is your website is
Our Strange Planet.
Our Strange Planet, .com, of course. There are some photographs on there that were taken in the valley. There's one that kind of looks like a wispy cloud or something that's moving across the picture, but it's not very high up in the air. It doesn't appear to be. And then, of course, there's the morphing UFO. Have you taken pictures of anything since you've gotten your one working camera installed?
Yeah, we have. We've had some interesting nighttime stuff. We had a weird, it looked like a swarm of some sort of, like maybe nanobots or something that went by one night. We have no idea what it is. We're still scratching our heads. It almost looked like something that was not quite manifest. It looked like a shadow in the air that flew across our camera. That's the weirdest thing that we've gotten. We haven't been up and operating as effectively as we want because we've been training the software to identify when it goes into record mode. It'll put a box in a label on everything in the frame. In other words, cars going by will say cars, bushes will say bushes, trees will say trees. Birds will say birds, airplanes, depending on the type of the pattern of the FAA lights, there'll be a label on those. So with deep learning and AI techniques, we're training the software to be more discriminating to eliminate false positives. And so we have gotten a few things, but we really haven't been set up to really have the thing, and fine-tuned and ready to rock. We've just let it go for a couple of days, and then we've gone back and reviewed the footage until we get that second camera up and we get the magnetometer and gravimeter and get the software. We're almost done training the software to be discriminating. Once that happens, then we'll be up and running, and we'll supply people with the software upgrade so that their software and their systems will be up to speed.
So isn't it amazing, though, Chris? I mean, from the time that you first conceived this idea, how quickly technology has made itself available that a lot of these things that you thought originally were probably impossible, you can now do. I mean, just the Raspberry Pi alone, I mean, how it's amazing how much you can get that to do.
Our system started at about $450 and go up to about $5,000, and the $5,000 system is state of the art in terms of having a 36 times optical zoom and pan tilt zoom camera with environmental enclosure that'll protect it from 120 degrees down to 50 below. Really good optics in our cameras. Our single shot cameras that don't pan tilt and zoom are 90 degree cameras, and they have a much better quality optics in there. So you can actually have a couple of small cameras and the software, and you could be ready to go for about a little over $400. So if I had tried to do this system 20 years ago, it would have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars,
and probably not have near the quality that you can get now.
Yeah. We can go. We can go 4K if we had the bandwidth. So.
Well, and that I can imagine would is a problem, considering some of the the remote locations in the valley.
Yeah, we can go off cell towers. You can set up a hotspot with a phone, but the places that we're looking at are places that have high-speed internet, because all these cameras are talking to each other, and talking to the software package over the internet. So we can control the cameras from Van Nuys, where Ron is. He can control cameras all over the world, and then we're going to have a centralized data collection point where everybody's systems, if they want to be involved in the big UFODAP system, then we supply analytical services as well for unknowns. We have a team of very qualified individuals that'll be helping ID what particular objects are, and really trying to get that all important repeat set of data so that we can start to analyze it scientifically.
Amazing, just absolutely amazing. The technology since Roswell, right?
Yeah. Well, this has been a 20-year dream, and I've been working diligently on this for 12 years.
Well, I know you have. You've been at the forefront of the legitimate research, in the States here, and it's good to see that this is finally getting underway. It is a hardcore, hand-picked group of individuals that are doing this now on a global scale. We talked about this for many years, and now in Norway and different places and all, the setup is going up and continuing, and maybe we'll get some answers. I don't know what kind of answers we're going to get. I mean, what do you expect to what kind of answers do you expect to get? I mean, is it possible to tell, like, the material, what makes up these crafts or these objects or things that are going by? I mean, is there any way of determining the content of the object?
Composition?
Not really, I think it's more of a propulsion. Propulsion diagnostic. Will be able to establish size, the actual aeronautical abilities of the craft. We'll be able to look at energy expenditure, how much energy they're actually using. We'll be able to see whether their propulsion systems have an effect on the Earth's gravity or the Earth's magnetic field. And we're also going to be doing, I want to do these acoustic wave monitoring too, with these big plate mics, so that we can record extremely low frequency waves. When these things do right angle turns, they actually create subsonic audio waves that will go for maybe even hundreds of miles. We don't know, but they're so deep and low pitch that your ears can't hear them, but they're there. We've had enough indication of some, Project Starlight, Ray Stanford's group, for instance. They were able to establish that there was extremely low frequency waves going on, and so if we get a PZM mic and record those audio signatures, we'll be able to optical physics and some other scientific disciplines will be able to to really determine a lot of things, how they're able to fly without creating sonic booms, size, luminance, energy expenditures. There's going to be a bunch, and if we can duplicate that in a second, third sighting event, then we've replicated data, and that's the holy grail of science, is being able to look at not just one set of data, but 2, 3, 4 sets to compare and just bounce one off the other. That's how you do good science. You create a hypothesis and then you collect the data to support it. And one set of data is not going to is going to be equivocal. You have to be able to have repeatability.
All right. Well, Judy. So, okay, from Chris's high tech to the human perspective, can people come to the UFO Watchtower at any time? I mean, are you open all year round?
We stay open on weekends in the winter, and we're only open from 10 to 4 because it's so blasted cold. But anyway, and then when we get into spring and summer, we're open daily from 10 to 5. If they want to go up on the tower at night, they let us know, and that's no problem.
Well, I would think that despite the cold, a lot of times the cold air is the clearest, and you could probably have some of your best sightings on a
and low humidity
night.
Too. It's a semi-arid desert.
Yep, and it is. I mean, like right now, I mean, it's just the stars are just bright, bright, bright. The sky is bright. So I had a guy call earlier, and he wanted to go up on the tower tonight. I don't care, but I worry about them freezing to death up
there. You don't want to get up in the morning and find a human sickle on the Watchtower.
And usually, I mean, we've had a lot of people that wanted to go up this winter, and I said, okay, go ahead, but you better bundle up. And gosh, they're only up there for 10 or 15 minutes, and they're out of there. So.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we only have about 4 minutes left in the show. So, Judy, why don't you let our audience know where they can find you, not only your physical location, where the Watchtower is, but your online presence as well.
Okay, yeah, it's UFOWatchtower.com. And then we have UFO Watchtower at yahoo.com. So if they want to send an email, that's fine too.
And where are you located? North? Is it north of Hooper?
We're 22 miles north of Alamosa. 2 miles north of Hooper.
And your book title?
Highway
Your book
17. Pardon?
And your book title again is?
That Crazy Lady Down the Road.
Well, I object to that title. I don't think she's that crazy.
Well,
no, but it makes a great title for a book, though.
It does indeed, yeah. And easy to remember. And Chris, tell us about your music and your books and your website and.
It's OurStrangePlanet.com. We live in a strange planet. It's OurStrangePlanet.com. And it's UFO D as in dog, A as in apple, P as in pea. So UFO DAP, which stands for UFO Data Acquisition Project, UFODAP.com. And we do have a GoFundMe page up. This is all being put together on a shoestring budget. So if you want to be part of the solution in this wacky field, this is a good way to put some of your funds at work to help us realize a 20-year dream that we've been working on now 12 years. So we appreciate it. And that's UFODAP or GoFundMe.com/SLV UFODAP.
And how about a website for your music?
It's all under Our Strange Planet. There's some DVDs and other things on there. Yeah.
All right. And the Strange Valley series, I call it. You can find that all on Amazon. And don't forget our UFOs DeJa Vu book that just came out. And of course, if you want to see an animated version of this, it's Mr. UFO's Secret Files on YouTube. Mr. UFO Secret Files, and of course, the archive here at KCORradio.com.
Yeah.
And Tim, it's another,
Well, I was just going to say, and also don't forget Timur Swartz's big book of incredible alien encounters.
The largest book published on the really large. We're talking large, man. I mean, this thing is like the size of an old Manhattan telephone book. Nicely printed, lots of photos. 5-star book.
Good night, all.
Yeah.
Good night. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, you guys.
Yes, good night. You bet.
You've been listening to Exploring the Bizarre with hosts Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz. They're taking back the night by jetting non-stop across the cosmos in search of the truly bizarre and totally unexplained, with you as their co-pilot. Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. For more information on Exploring the Bizarre and hosts Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz, check out their KCOR Digital Radio Network page. Follow their YouTube channel at MRUFO 1100. Exploring the Bizarre.